A black car convoy swept into Downing Street at 3:15 sharp. On board, a new face. Some say a breath of fresh air, a reformist, a progressive. Others are reserving judgment on Sri Lanka's first new president for a decade. David Cameron clashed openly with his predecessor, who ran a repressive regime accused of the gravest of war crimes. President Maithripala Sirisena has pledged to promote reconciliation between ethnic Sinhalese and Tamils on his septic isle, 6 years on from the end of a bloody civil war.
I want to congratulate you on your election victory.
Today, the Prime Minister said commitment to accountability would help heal the deep wounds of war.
When you put together the fact that there is some demilitarization taking place, there is resettlement taking place, there's military land being given back to local people, these are all good signs. But what Britain will want to see is a record of action, not just a record of words.
For all David Cameron's professed unwavering commitment to ensuring those responsible for alleged war crimes are held to account, and for all the encouraging signals coming from this Sri Lankan government, there is a potential problem. The new president was the acting Defence Minister of Sri Lanka right at the very end of the war when so many Tamil civilians were killed. Old wine, new bottle, the skeptics are saying. The new president declined to be interviewed by Channel 4 News. His new foreign minister said he didn't have time. The UN has given you 6 months, sir, to start taking steps to ensure accountability. What are you going to do, sir? Can we just talk? Terrible atrocities were perpetrated by both sides in the 27-year conflict. But as government forces closed in on the rump of the Tamil separatist army in 2009, Tamil civilians were trapped in what the government called the no-fire zone. It was a grotesque misnomer. The UN says at least 40,000 civilians were killed. Today, the award-winning feature film No Fire Zone, documenting that conflict, was re-released here in London. But this time, it's voiced for the first time in Sinhalese, the language of the victors, many of whom still refuse to concede that war crimes were committed by anyone other than Tamils. Today, this woman, Mrs. Balendran Jayakumari, was freed on bail after a year behind bars without charge under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Her crime? Demanding to know the fate of her 15-year-old son, captured by the army at the end of the war. Thousands of Tamils have disappeared without trace.
The hope arises from pressure. The pressure means that when President Sirisena gets invited for the first time to visit, he will release one person. So you need lots of pressure for very little movement. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of people that are held without charge.
David Cameron said today the unbearable suffering he'd seen on the faces of women like Mrs. Jayakumari on his trip to northern Sri Lanka 18 months ago would continue to haunt him and drive him to keep pushing for change.